So this is juniper.
Yeah. One of the things I really want to make sure, like before every episode, if it's a series of something, is that we acknowledge the Sanyaa, Kwáan, and Taant'a people.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I think that's also one good thing is I always like to harvest with somebody from those families too. Sometimes magic happens. You don't even know why. Like she was just telling me about her dad would make medicine from juniper, and there it was.
Yeah.
And so
He did.
that's what happens when you're, Kase yuchat duwasak, dao da'u yuchat duwasak, chak hut nachat sati, wishkitan ayachat. I'm from the Tushit, the Shark House. My Tlingit names are Kase and Dao. I'm Wishkitan from Dakanak, Berners Bay area. And I live here in Ketchikan and raised my children here on Sanyaa, Kwáan, and Taant'a land. So grateful for them and for this place that we live. It's so amazing. And I am so excited about the plant symposium coming up. It's been really wonderful to see the interest in our community grow just in the last couple years. It's been tremendous. And not only that, but the healing that's been happening in many different ways, and many that I don't even know of yet. But it's been really, it brings me a lot of hope and energy. And so we're so excited, and I'm so happy to be working with Ketchikan Indian community, my tribe. And I started a business several years ago called Kase Training and Consulting. And sometimes I wonder if I should even call it a business because I think of it more of as a service. And really it is to help connect people back to the land and to share the power of our traditional and indigenous plants and foods. And I have the opportunity to help with the first plant symposium. I approached the KIC Social Services Department, and that was Lynn Kwáan and also Trixie Bennett, and very key people in making that first plant symposium happen.
See right here's a nice ripe, these are crowberries. You can use the whole thing for tea, but these are better after you freeze them.
Crowberries?
Yeah, you see it? Up on the tundra, these grow way bigger and fatter, but they're still really good here. They're good in tea, they're good in the berries I love in my oatmeal. They're kind of woody right now, but after you freeze them, they get sweeter. Let me say who I am.
Yes.
Trixie Bennett, you hot do a suck, ye hot city, cut cherry, I hot, Taltan Dutch kan I hot, Nanya a Yeti. I said that my name is Trixie Bennett. I don't have a Tlingit name. A little bit of a story. I said I'm from Wrangell area. I said on my grandfather's side I'm Sanyaa, and I said that my father's people are Taant'a from up the Stikine River, and the Tlingit name for that is Ketchikan, so Kwáan. I said I'm Kwáan, and I said my clan is Ketchikan, and that's from my mom's side. And I guess plants are important to me because they connect me to other people, and it's from when I was younger. I come from a family of 9 children. We commercial fished. We didn't have a car, so we walked a lot. My mom, her mom passed when she was just 7, and that was the indigenous part of the family. And her dad was non-native, but he was also a fisherman. So she grew up, with her dad and her brothers, and without her mother. But she remembered bits and pieces of plants, especially sprouts and berries and teas. And then there were other elders that I learned a little bit from as I was growing up, but I don't think I really absorbed it until I was older, and probably about 10 or 15 years ago. But that's a lot.
Yeah, I got good over here.
That's enough for
Is this a berry or what
a
is
month
this?
of oatmeal.
Is that the bearberry? Holy, there's lots
That's
over
the
here
bog
too.
laurel, the one that gets the fuchsia.
There's lots of berries over here. Yeah, there's berries everywhere.
A lot of the young people that I've talked to recently are wondering, where are we going to get our food if we can't go to the store? And there was a young girl that told me that she was picking up garbage on the beach, and she kind of knew where all the garbage came from. She could tell it was a Coke can or a Snickers bar wrapper, or the garbage that she was collecting. But she took a look around at the plants and the area that she was at on the beach, and she didn't know actually what was there that she could eat or what was edible. She felt like she knew so much more about the brand names and what we're buying at the store, but not about the place that we live in and that she grew up in. There's a quote by grandmother Rita Blumenstein, who was one of my mentors, and she talked about when we heal ourselves, then we are also healing our ancestors and healing our grandfathers and grandmothers, but also our children and Mother Earth. And so when we take time to learn about what we have around us and the teachings that each of these plants provide, we can't help but learn about respect and about caring for the land, caring for each other, and just a different way of looking at the world. It's a different worldview. A lot of our teachings are around the plants as our relatives and how they all have teachings to give us. And for example, an easy one for us to think of is like cedar as being generous and kind. And think about cedar, how long it's been here and how it's helped our people survive. And we used it for housing, we used cedar for everything, for medicine, for basketry, for clothing, and how we use it today, part of reclaiming who we are. You see wonderful children making cedar hats and weaving and doing all sorts of activities around cedar that, when I was younger, we weren't able to do that.
This is red cedar, but it's already been harvested. Someone took this much off of it. See, only take 1/3 of the tree because it's just respectful to the tree because it don't grow back. The bark don't grow back, so that's why you don't harvest it again. But on a fresh tree, I would just check the outer bark. See how it's like shaved red like that? It's red cedar. You need to use an axe and then cut it like that and then strip it. And then that's how you get your cedar. And then you take this outer bark off. Clean it.
where she's from, there's a lot of Tongass National Forest, but also tribal land, and so she can, in Heidelberg, she can access more cedar than over here. It's mostly Tongass National Forest or state of Alaska. Right now we're on the Tongass, and we were going to harvest cedar today to show you, but there's a question on permits. So I think we think we can harvest, but we have to get a permit.
Yeah,
so we run into that a lot, and it's hard to tell where even Tongass National Forest is in state land, and so those are some things we're working on as a tribe as well, is increasing access wherever we can. That's what we've been working on as tribes forever, since my great-grandfather was born in the mid-1850s, and in Wrangell, and that's what the first things he went to legislature for is access to our foods. We can't have tribal sovereignty without food sovereignty, access to our foods.
Yeah.
I think it's a time of rebuilding and rebuilding our community, and I really wanted to help people remember who they are, and they do it on their own. I'm not doing anything special other than maybe bringing plants closer to them. And I've seen it happen where bring a plant to an elder and they're not quite sure. They were invited to speak on a certain plant and they're not quite sure what they might share. And when I was making Devil's Club salve, and so there was Devil's Club, and when he sat down in the classroom, you could smell the Devil's Club, you could see the Devil's Club, and then he could touch it. I had a piece for him there. And when that happened, he began to remember all sorts of stories and how he would bathe in Devil's Club before hunting, and how and many people share about the spiritual aspects of the plants and our connections to the plants, and the plants as being the first people. And so all these stories came out that were really surprising to everyone, and also to him. And comments also from people saying that cedar saved him. And there is, and just like today, like cedar saved him. He learned all about how to gather respectfully and how to make something beautiful, and learn and listen to an elder as a teacher, or a relative as a teacher, and that taught him a different way of kind of looking at the world. And so, and maybe this person had a history of violence, and so anyway, I've heard people say cedar saved him, and or just the fact of learning how to put up fish was that's my skill. And people in recovery also have talked about just the plants helping them with the healing process.
It's been so good because I'm a recovering addict, so this helps.
Yeah.
Yep. People need things to do.
A lot of people my age don't have good goals in life.
Yeah, that's something I've heard people say a lot.
I'm trying to break the cycle.
Nice.
Very unique.
Trying to break the cycle.
Because a lot of people are remembering that symbiotic relationship with the land. Before, the land was taken care of by different clans. Everybody had areas of, and these things were precious because we still need these things today. And we need those relationships. That's what's missing for a lot of us. And to come out here and smell Hudson Bay tea or Chaldean, and just triggers we know we're built like that. And maybe, it's a childhood memory, or maybe it's in our DNA, but it's very connecting. And then you start adding our language, and it just is amazing connection for people. It's really helping Covey. Even though she did this stuff growing up, it's easy to forget. And so she's remembering again, and that's what a lot of us are doing, remembering again how our food systems work.
I think it's important to share the stories because we haven't heard them before, or it's been a long time. It's a part of the, like language, how important language is. Learning about anything that we can about our culture, and helping to make it part of everyday life, not just maybe a little class here and there, but to really look into a history book at the school and see stories of our people and how we contributed to this world and this community. A lot of our stories haven't been told and are still coming out, and we see the unfortunate and very sad stories about the children being discovered at these residential schools, and there will be many more of those. And so really taking the time to acknowledge that they happened is a part of healing. So if we try to hide, or we tell people to try to get over it, or if we don't believe it even happened, or we dismiss, I call that disclosure disaster. And so say a child tells you that something happened to them and we don't believe them, that could be very damaging to them and the way they think about themselves and their self-worth, and they start to blame themselves, and they become, it's the beginnings of internalized depression. And so when we think about all these stories that are coming out, really hard for us to hear and to even think that could even happen. And in some ways, a lot of these stories are still happening. And so it really brings light to the truth. And so we have to have truth and the stories to be told before we can have healing. And but also so we can learn from them, and so that we don't repeat. And then we have more empathy and understanding for some of the challenges that we have today.
I think it comes back to the history being told, learning truth, and why so much was lost, and recognizing that, and picking it back up, the people, and sharing and creating those platforms, like I said, for sharing those gifts of how to clean the salmon, how to skin a seal, when to pick the berries, where to pick the berries, how we used to cultivate, how we could cultivate now, having more indigenize the food system again. This is just an opportunity for many of us to learn what we should have learned from it should have been passed down by our ancestors. And it's really exciting time, and a healing time for our people, and for me. I can't wait to share and learn from people across the state. Traditional healers across the state will be here, and that just makes me really excited, because I learn something all the time. I learn something from Naomi every time I'm by her, and that's what it's about. It's so good to get together and celebrate what's here, and celebrate our culture and our foods. That's integral. I see plants as food and medicine as the biggest chunk missing from our diets, not just Indigenous people, but all people. And someday I want to see, Indigenous cuisine across the country. We don't see that yet because our people, again, are healing. And we've overcome a lot, and we're getting stronger, and plants as food and medicine is huge in that.
There's a ton of interest in making our own medicines and learning about the health and benefit of what we have here. It's like our medicine cabinet is right here, and if we knew, but we do need to take the time, just like prevention, to learn about how to do those things respectfully, sustainably, and also together as a community. And it's a huge part of it's hard to explain a lot of times because there's this spiritual aspect of all the things that we did. It was like walking in a prayer, living in that way. And so it wasn't like on Sunday. It was something that we lived that way. And to be Tlingit is to be a human being. And I think of us as all practicing to become professional human beings. And that if we learn more about the gifts that we have, each of us, and we can help anybody feel better about themselves and to feel confident in being where we are. And it just spreads. And I think that we need each other, all of us do. And so we can't do this thing alone. And so what I've noticed is there's a resurgence of wanting to learn about all these things, the arts and the languages, the history, of course, too, and people want to be well, and we don't always have the opportunities to live that way, and so some people need more help than others in certain areas, and so it's really all about equity and social justice. And if you think about equity and social justice and like, what does that have to do with plants? And I would just say everything.